a certain young boy who has lived with his father from the time he was a baby till the time he got to adolescent. And then in their village, there is what is known as rite of passage. Rite of passage is one of the rituals that are performed before a man attains manhood, attains a certain level where you can now call him a man. Now, that rite of passage demands that at a certain age, a young boy will be separated from his family, and then he will go into the bush and spend one full night. And the bush in question is a bush that is infested by venomous serpents, snakes, wild animals. Now, whenever any young boy attains that stage, they always look up to it with mixed feeling, fear and courage. And then, when the appointed day came for this boy to experience this rite of passage, his father took him into the forest like every other boys, and they were sent there. Now, when it was late, very dark, the boys were left alone. Now, throughout the night, this boy was scared to death. When I mean scared to death, even the slightest rustling on the leaf, he will get startled and jump up. That is, even the sound of mosquito, his heart will jump. Every slight movement, you will see his heart palpitating, beating, as if it's going to burst out of his body. And then, this boy was unable to catch even a split-second sleep throughout the whole night duration. He could not sleep. He could not close his eyes till morning. Now, when it was morning, the first ray of the sun cast its glow on the forest. And this boy opened his eyes and saw. When I come next Sunday, I will tell you. At least I'm not going to tell you. I said, when I come next Sunday, I will tell you. Okay, want to know what happened? Now pay attention. Listen. When this boy opened his eyes, to his shock and disappointment, he saw his father standing guard over him with a hand holding a very sharp cutlass. And this boy said, "Hey, if I had known that my father was with me all through the night, I should have slept very well. I wasted the whole night. So scared, so fearful, without knowing that all through the horror of the night, my father was keeping guard over me with stretched hand." And the father turned to the boy and said, "So you don't trust me? You think I will abandon you in the bush and go?" This is what I make you cry. Oh. Pay attention. This is exactly the sentiment God expressed this morning. Imagine God who brought the people of Israel from their captivity in Egypt. Imagine God who caused the Red Sea to split into two and created a pathway for his people. Imagine God who fed these people in the wilderness where there was no food and manna fell from the sky. Imagine God who caused water to gush forth from the stone. And then Job woke up one morning and started condemning God. Started telling God, "Look at my condition. Look at my predicament. You have abandoned me. You have done this. You have done this." And God was like, "What? So you don't trust me? So you don't know me? So you think I will just abandon you? Who does that?" Pay attention. Who does that? And God began to remind him, okay, if you think I've abandoned you, now let me even bring your attention to what you have never considered. Who gave the sea their band? Who gave the sea their band and made them not to overflow their banks? In the ancient time, water is one of the most fiercest elements. Very terrifying, very scary. If you want to understand how powerful the water element can be, go and watch this movie called The Odyssey. If you watch Odyssey, you will meet the story of a king called Odysseus, the king of Ithaca. After his war with the Trojan people, he was returning to his homeland, Ithaca. The god of the sea called Poseidon. The god of the sea called Poseidon swore to make his journey back home an agony. He swore to make his journey back home an agony. And he released a terrible, fierce wind that destroyed Odysseus' ship, threw his crewmen into the sea and buried them. And then Odysseus found himself washed ashore in the island of Ogygia, where a beautiful maiden called Calypso was in charge of the island. I'm not going to go into the story of Calypso. It's a long story anyway. But the point is this. In that movie, you see how terrifying the water element can be. And then if you move there is also another moving story in ancient Greek. The story of a king called the Agamemnon, a warlord, in the movie called Helen of Troy. When they wanted to go to Troy to fight, is anyone answering Helen? Helen of Troy, as at that time, was the most beautiful woman in the world. So if your name is Helen, kudos to you. Now pay attention. Pay attention. Listen, pay attention. Pay attention. Now, when Agamemnon and the other Greek warlords wanted to go to Troy to fight and redeem their honor, it happened that the sea on which they were to sail through to Troy was stormy for days. For days, the sea was raging, trembling, that is terrible storm was raging on the sea. They could not travel. They were so scared until Agamemnon went to the oracle to inquire. And the oracle told him, you offended the gods. The only thing you can do to be granted a smooth sail is to sacrifice your only daughter, Iphigenia. And because Agamemnon wanted to go on that war, Iphigenia was slaughtered. And after the killing of Iphigenia, the stormy sea was restored to calmness. And they made their travel to Troy. Now, why I brought this little instance is to tell you how terrifying sea can be. But God is telling us today, and the God of sea and sky, I hold the key. I gave the sea their band. That was why Jesus was also angry at his apostles. Why are you afraid? Have you no faith? Don't you trust me again? Trust is what Jesus is telling us today. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give to somebody, to trust somebody. That is one of the greatest gifts you can give to somebody.